I found out I have an abusive husband while being pregnant. I'm not really one to pour my heart out to strangers on the internet, but today I feel compelled to share my story. Maybe it's because writing helps me process everything, or maybe I just need to know I'm not alone. Either way, here's my tale, raw and real. My name is Emily, I'm 28, and until last year, I thought I had my life all figured out. I'd been married to Mark for 3 years. We met in college, fell in love hard and fast, and got married shortly after graduation. It seemed perfect at the time. But as anyone who's been through a divorce will tell you, things aren't always as they appear. Mark and I started growing apart about a year into our marriage. Our once passionate love turned into constant bickering and silent treatments. We wanted different things from life. He was all about climbing the corporate ladder, while I dreamed of starting a family and pursuing my passion for art. We tried to make it work, but we were both too stubborn to compromise. The love we had was buried under resentment and unmet expectations. Then came the day that changed everything. We had one last, explosive fight. This time about something as trivial as where to spend the holidays. That night, we decided it was over. We filed for divorce and started living separately. A few weeks after our separation, I started feeling off. I chalked it up to stress at first. After all, divorce isn't exactly a walk in the park. But the nausea, fatigue, and missed periods couldn't be ignored. One fateful morning, I took a pregnancy test, and my world flipped upside down. 2 pink lines stared back at me. I was pregnant with Mark's child. I didn't know how to feel. Fear, joy, confusion, they all hit me at once. Mark and I were done, but now we were forever connected by this tiny life growing inside me. I debated telling him right away, but decided to wait until I was certain about what I wanted to do. Weeks went by, and as the initial shock wore off, I found myself warming up to the idea of being a mom. I decided to keep the baby, regardless of what Mark's reaction might be. Finally, when I was ready, I called him over to talk. Mark arrived at my apartment looking tired and distant, just as I remembered him. I told him the news, and for a moment, I saw a flicker of something in his eyes. Was it hope? Fear? Regret? He sat there, silent, processing what I had just revealed. Then he asked the question I had dreaded, "What do you want to do?" "I'm keeping the baby," I said firmly. "You don't have to be involved if you don't want to, but I thought you should know." To my surprise, Mark didn't seem angry or upset. Instead, he just nodded and said he needed time to think. He left without another word. The next few weeks were a whirlwind of emotions. I prepared myself for the possibility of raising this baby alone. My friends and family were supportive, but I couldn't help feeling the weight of my situation. I still hadn't heard from Mark, and I had no idea what he was thinking or planning. Then, something happened that shocked me to my core. One rainy afternoon, as I sat in my living room sketching out ideas for a new painting, there was a knock at the door. I opened it to find Mark standing there, drenched from the rain, holding a small suitcase. "I want to be part of this," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. "I don't know how to fix us, but I want to try. For the baby, and maybe for us." I was stunned. This was the last thing I expected. Part of me wanted to slam the door in his face. After all, where was this willingness to try when our marriage was falling apart? But another part of me, the part that remembered the man I fell in love with, wanted to give him a chance. So we started talking. Really talking. For the first time in years, we laid everything bare. The hurt, the disappointments, the dreams we once shared. We began to rebuild a tentative friendship, focusing on our future co-parenting relationship. It wasn't easy, and it certainly wasn't romantic, but it was a start. As the months passed, we attended doctor's appointments together, planned for the baby's arrival, and even started couples therapy. We weren't magically in love again, but we were partners in this new journey. We found a new kind of respect for each other, a new way to be in each other's lives. And now, as I sit here, 8 months pregnant and reflecting on everything that's happened, I still don't know what the future holds for Mark and me. We're not officially back together, but we're not exactly apart either. We're in this strange, liminal space, co-parents, and maybe something more. I guess that's the open-ended part of my story. I don't know if Mark and I will ever fully reconcile, or if we'll just be the best co-parents we can be. But for now, I'm taking it one day at a time, focusing on the little life that's about to join us. My new boyfriend is too sweet and boring. 2 years ago, I was in a relationship with a guy named Jake. We met at a party, and I was instantly drawn to him. He was tall, dark, and handsome. The quintessential bad boy. He had this air of confidence that was intoxicating. We started talking, and before I knew it, we were inseparable. Jake was exciting and spontaneous, and he made me feel alive in a way I hadn't felt before. I fell hard and fast. The first few months were like a dream. We went on adventurous dates, stayed up all night talking, and I felt like I was on top of the world. But slowly, things started to change. Jake's confidence began to show its darker side. He became controlling, always wanting to know where I was and who I was with. At first I thought it was sweet that he cared so much, but soon it became suffocating. The verbal abuse started subtly. He would criticize my friends, my clothes, even the way I talked. If I disagreed with him, he'd get angry and say things that cut deep. I remember one night, we had a fight because I wanted to go out with my friends. He accused me of not loving him enough and said I was selfish. His words made me feel worthless. Over time, the verbal abuse escalated to physical intimidation. He never hit me, but he would punch walls, throw things, and get in my face, yelling until I was in tears. Looking back, I don't know why I stayed as long as I did. Maybe I thought I could change him, or maybe I believed his apologies every time he promised it would be different. I was in love with the idea of who he could be, not who he was. My friends saw the bruises, both physical and emotional, and begged me to leave him. But I was scared. Scared of being alone, scared of what he might do if I tried to leave. The turning point came after a particularly bad fight. Jake had been drinking, and when I tried to calm him down, he shoved me so hard I fell and hit my head. As I lay there on the floor, pain radiating through my skull, I realized that if I didn't leave, I might not survive. It took every ounce of courage I had, but with the help of my friends, I finally broke free. I moved in with my best friend, Emma, who gave me a safe place to stay while I figured things out. After Jake, I wasn't sure I'd ever trust another man again. My self-esteem was shattered, and I felt like damaged goods. I threw myself into my studies and my part-time job, trying to rebuild my life piece by piece. I swore off dating, convinced that I was better off alone. But life has a funny way of surprising you when you least expect it. About 6 months after leaving Jake, I met Alex. He came into the coffee shop where I worked, and we struck up a conversation. He was soft-spoken, polite, and had this warm, genuine smile. We started chatting every time he came in, and eventually he asked me out. At first, I was hesitant. I was terrified of falling into another abusive relationship. But something about Alex felt different. He was patient and understanding, never pushing me to share more than I was comfortable with. On our first date, we went to a quiet little restaurant, and he made me laugh more than I had in months. For the first time in a long time, I felt a glimmer of hope. Alex is the complete opposite of Jake in every way. He's kind, gentle, and always puts my needs first. At first, it felt like a dream come true. Alex made me feel safe, something I hadn't felt in a long time. He listens to me, respects me, and never raises his voice. He's everything I should want, right? But here's where it gets complicated. Despite how wonderful Alex is, I can't help but feel bored. I know how awful that sounds, but it's the truth. After the intense, albeit toxic, relationship with Jake, the calm and steady nature of my relationship with Alex feels almost too safe. Sometimes I miss the excitement, the unpredictability, even if it came with so much pain. I hate myself for feeling this way. How could I be so ungrateful when I finally have a man who treats me right? I find myself nitpicking at Alex for the smallest things. His predictable routines, his reluctance to take risks, his aversion to conflict. Part of me wonders if I'm just addicted to the drama, conditioned to think that love has to be chaotic and tumultuous to be real. Recently, Alex has noticed my restlessness. He asked me if I was happy, and I lied, saying everything was fine. But the truth is, I don't know if I am. I'm scared of hurting him because he doesn't deserve that. He deserves someone who appreciates him fully, who isn't haunted by the ghosts of a toxic past. I keep thinking back to a conversation I had with Emma, who told me that sometimes, when you've been through hell, normalcy can feel like a letdown. Maybe that's what I'm experiencing. Maybe I need to heal more before I can truly appreciate the stability and love Alex offers. Or maybe, and this is the terrifying part, Alex just isn't the one for me. It's hard to admit, but I need to figure out if I'm with him because I truly love him or because he's the safe choice after Jake. One thing that really highlighted my confusion happened a few weeks ago. Alex and I were out for a walk in the park, enjoying the nice weather. We sat down on a bench, and he started talking about our future, moving in together, getting a dog, maybe even marriage someday. It was everything I thought I wanted to hear, but instead of feeling excited, I felt this wave of anxiety. The idea of such a predictable, stable future scared me more than the chaos I'd left behind with Jake. I didn't say anything to Alex at the time, but that night I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about why the idea of a stable life with him felt so suffocating. Was I really so broken that I couldn't appreciate a good thing when I had it? Or was there something deeper that I needed to address? I decided to see a therapist to help me sort through my feelings. Talking to a professional has been eye-opening. I've started to understand that my relationship with Jake left deeper scars than I realized. I'm learning that it's normal to feel disoriented after leaving an abusive relationship, and that it's okay to need time to adjust to a healthy one. Through therapy, I've also realized that part of my struggle is that I've never really taken the time to figure out who I am and what I want outside of a relationship. With Jake, my identity was so wrapped up in him and his approval that I lost myself. And now, with Alex, I'm realizing that I need to learn how to be happy on my own before I can truly be happy with someone else. This doesn't mean I don't love Alex. I do. He's been my rock, my safe harbor. But I'm beginning to see that maybe I've been unfair to him. I've been expecting him to fill all the holes that Jake left in my heart, when in reality, only I can do that. I need to take responsibility for my own healing and happiness. So, what does this mean for me and Alex? I'm not entirely sure yet. We've had some difficult conversations lately, and I've been honest with him about my struggles. He's been incredibly understanding, but I can see that it hurts him. I don't want to string him along while I figure myself out, but I also don't want to lose him. One thing I know for certain is that I need to take some time for myself. I've started setting boundaries in our relationship, not because I don't love him, but because I need to learn to love myself first. I've taken up painting again, something I used to love but abandoned when I was with Jake. It's been therapeutic, allowing me to express my emotions in a way that words can't. I've also started spending more time with my friends and family, rebuilding those connections that I let deteriorate during my time with Jake. It's been comforting to be surrounded by people who genuinely care about me and want the best for me. As for Alex, we're taking things one day at a time. We've decided to slow things down and focus on the present rather than planning too far ahead. I'm grateful for his patience and support, and I'm trying to show him that I appreciate him in ways that matter. Maybe we'll make it through this, and maybe we won't. I don't have all the answers, but I'm learning to be okay with that. Life isn't a straight path, and sometimes you have to take detours to find your way. I'm hopeful that no matter what happens, I'll come out of this stronger and more self-aware. 22M, but I can't find a girlfriend. I've been lurking here for a while, but today I finally decided to share my story. Maybe some of you will relate, or maybe you'll have advice for someone like me. Either way, here it goes. I'm 22 now, and I've never had a girlfriend. It's something that's been on my mind a lot lately, especially since all my friends seem to have no trouble finding relationships. I guess my story starts back in high school when I first fell in love. It was sophomore year when I met Emily. I've changed her name for privacy. She was in my English class, and from the moment I saw her, I was smitten. Emily was smart, funny, and had this incredible smile that could light up a room. Every day, I would look forward to English class just to see her. But I was shy, painfully shy. The idea of talking to her made my heart race and my palms sweat. I tried to muster the courage to speak to her many times. I'd rehearse what I wanted to say over and over in my head, but when the moment came, I'd freeze. I'd end up saying something dumb or just staying silent. One time, I managed to ask her about the homework, and she smiled and helped me out. It was a small interaction, but it meant the world to me. Throughout high school, I had a few more crushes. There was Jessica in junior year, who I bonded with over our love of music. We'd talk about our favorite bands, and she even invited me to a concert once. But just as I thought we were getting closer, she started dating a guy from her math class. I was heartbroken but never let on. I'd smile and pretend everything was fine, while my insides twisted with disappointment. Senior year brought a new hope with Ashley. We were lab partners in chemistry, and she was kind and patient with me. We'd laugh over our failed experiments and joke about our eccentric teacher. I thought maybe, just maybe, this time would be different. I worked up the nerve to ask her to prom, but she told me she was going with someone else. Again, I was left feeling inadequate and alone. High school ended, and I went off to college, hoping a change of scenery would bring a change in my luck with girls. But my shyness followed me. In my freshman year, I met a girl named Mia in my psychology class. We had a lot in common and would often grab coffee after class to discuss our assignments and life in general. I thought things were going well until she casually mentioned she was seeing someone. My heart sank, but I put on a brave face and continued our friendship, hiding my true feelings. By sophomore year, most of my friends had girlfriends. They'd go out on double dates, share stories of their romantic escapades, and give each other relationship advice. Meanwhile, I felt like the odd one out. I know some of you might think OP should just be more confident, or put himself out there more, but it's not that easy. Every time I tried, my insecurities and fear of rejection held me back. Junior year, I decided to try online dating. I thought maybe I'd have better luck if I didn't have to face someone in person right away. I created a profile, swiped right on a few girls, and even matched with a couple. But the conversations never seemed to go anywhere. I'd struggle with what to say, and more often than not, the girls would stop replying. It was disheartening. One match in particular seemed promising. Her name was Lucy, and we hit it off right away. We shared similar interests and had great conversations. After a few weeks of texting, we decided to meet up. I was nervous but excited. We met at a local cafe, and things seemed to be going well. But midway through our date, she got a call and had to leave unexpectedly. She promised to reschedule, but I never heard from her again. It was yet another blow to my already fragile self-esteem. Now, I'm in my senior year of college, and not much has changed. My friends continue to find girlfriends effortlessly, while I remain single. I've tried joining clubs, attending social events, and even asking friends to set me up, but nothing seems to work. I often wonder if there's something wrong with me, if I'm destined to be alone forever. I know some of you might suggest that OP should focus on himself and let love find him naturally, and I get that. I've tried throwing myself into my studies, pursuing hobbies, and improving myself, but the loneliness still lingers. There's a part of me that deeply craves companionship, someone to share my life with, to love and be loved in return. Recently, I met a girl named Rachel in one of my classes. She's sweet, funny, and seems genuinely interested in getting to know me. We've hung out a few times, and I can feel myself developing feelings for her. But there's this nagging fear that history will repeat itself, that she'll end up with someone else, and I'll be left heartbroken once more. I've been debating whether to tell Rachel how I feel, but I'm scared of ruining what we have. What if she doesn't feel the same way? What if she starts avoiding me like the others? I've been practicing what I'd say to her, trying to muster the courage to take that leap. But every time I get close, my fear takes over, and I back out. I know some of you might think OP should just go for it and see what happens, but it's not that easy. The fear of rejection, of being hurt again, is paralyzing. I've been rejected so many times that it's hard to believe that someone could actually want to be with me. So here I am, sharing my story with you, hoping for some advice or at least a bit of understanding. How do you find the courage to put yourself out there after so many failed attempts? How do you keep hope alive when it feels like love is always just out of reach? Thanks for listening, Reddit. It feels good to get this off my chest, and I appreciate any words of wisdom or encouragement you might have. Here's to hoping that one day I'll find the love I've been searching for.